Today we have this Compac FS-680 Riviera. Not 100% sure who makes this. It's made in Korea. It is a vintage reel. It's pretty lightweight reel, probably a fairly low-end reel. I'm gonna pick this one up at a garage sale over the summer. I'm gonna tear it apart, service it, get it back out on the water. It seems to work fairly well. The clicker, the rotation, everything seems to be good. Anti-reverse, the drag, everything seems to be fine on it. Just gonna tear it apart, clean it up, lube it, and get it back out on the water ready for fishing. Let's start by removing the handle, the exterior parts here. I'm going to remove the spool. Just turn this knob here and that spool will come right off of there. Oh, the spool is actually broken on this one. See if we can get that off there. It seems to be stuck on there a little bit. There we go. They're coming off there. Stuck on there pretty good. There we go. Fiber wash is pretty tore up, but I think we can still save that. Don't have to be real great shape. Not really much to that drag. Is one fiber, one steel, and that's it. It's definitely low end reel. A little bit of rust down in here on these components. That tells me this is not a stainless steel component. Bail release works, so let's tear the side cover off and get in here. This one actually has a little bit larger screws than I'm used to seeing. Want to always try to use a good quality screwdriver, one that's not worn out. You don't want to strip out the screwdriver slots on these screws. Get a parts tray. Put all the parts in there. That keeps them organized, and when you're done, if you got parts left over in there, you know you didn't get everything in it. Helps organize them. I like to set them in there in groups, how they come off the reel. Those screws are both about the same size, so we don't have to worry about which one goes where. Side cover's off. This is a plastic side cover. The body and rotor are both metal, but the side cover is definitely plastic. This is actually pretty good shape. This grease is pretty old, as you can see. Don't look like this really has a lot of wear on it. Pull this little pin here out. Want to be careful not to lose it. Set that in the parts tray. And then the axle shaft will come out. Set that over there. Well, you can see it, there's this little clip right here behind this gear that holds the rotor on. So you pull that up and out. Now the rotor will come off. Just pulls right off of there. This thing is super clean. I don't think this has got a lot of time on it at all. Very simple reel here. Very few moving parts. This makes it very nice because there's a lot less things to wear out. Pull this piece off here. This is for the eccentric, which operates the moves the axle shaft up and down for winding the line back on the rotor. This spring is down here on the anti-reverse lever. It popped up with this for some reason. You have to figure out how that goes back in there. It should not be a big deal. the main gear out. Set this piece over here, and here's where that lever, that spring went on, is this little lever dog here, or paw, whatever you want to call it. Let's see, that is going to need to be held against that. So more than likely, it's going to need to go in this fashion here. Nope, not that way. That should actually be underneath it. I wonder. Let me try that. It's weird that that was up there like that. Not 100% sure how that goes. I did not see how it was in there when it came out. But it needs to be in there in a fashion that's going to hold that against that anti-reverse cam. Okay, I think I see how it goes. Let's see if this works. Go down into there. That's going to go up there. Nope, that's not going to work. That's very odd. I think I see where this goes now. That spring up, and I believe, oops, I lost it. I believe that this spring, if I can get a hold of it, is going to come up behind that. And there we go. Whoops. Oh boy. I'm wondering, let's see here. Maybe I'm trying to put it in backwards because it did come out, so it had to have been underneath that. Okay, so let's try this direction. That's probably what it is. It probably sits there. But still got to have an axle point. I think I was going in the right direction earlier. These little springs can sometimes be a pain in the butt to figure out when they do that. They pop out like that. But we'll figure it out. It's only one way it can go, and there's not a whole lot of options on how to get it there. So we'll figure it out. I believe, oops. Get that piece to come back up around. So I do believe it hooks there. I just don't know why it's not wanting to stay. Now let's see, and there we go. Make sure I put the main gear back in and try it and see how it works with that in. Oh, it's still coming out of place. It is so strange. Just do not know what that was around. This has to go around something, usually. So not a lot of places in here this can go. That's what's very odd. Okay, let's give that a try. And there we go. There we are. Got her figured out. Alright, let's pull this out of here. We'll get these parts cleaned up and get it put back together. Like I said, not really a lot of grease or anything down in here, so this will be pretty simple cleanup. Fairly quick. I'll wipe out the main body here and any debris, grease, anything out of there. We definitely want to lube this. I don't think this has got much use at all on it. This probably was sat in the garage or wherever a long time. Fairly clean anyway. As I'm going along here, I look at the different components looking for damage and broken, missing teeth on the gears. Take a brass brush and clean this rust up and down on this shaft a little bit. Get the rust and stuff, rust and dirt and everything out of the threads of this. There we go, that looks a lot better. And take this spool. This is a fairly low-end reel. I'm not too concerned about it. Probably never find the spool for it. So I'm just going to glue this back together and that should be fine. If not, then it just becomes a parts reel. Not a big deal. Oh, I may be getting low on glue here. I like to use this Gorilla glue, Gorilla brand super glue. It works really well, very strong. Sets up pretty quickly. Okay, oops, don't glue your fingers together. There we go, just hold this for a little bit. Let that sit a minute and start to do its magic. It's Gorilla brand super glue. It's a gel, so it doesn't run all over the place. Works really well. There, it's already starting it here. Set this over here. I'll set something on top of it. Put a little pressure on it so it stays together. And we'll worry about that in a few minutes when it's time to assemble that piece. Okay, got that cleaned up, Clean this piece over here up. Use a lot of paper towels. I use Q-tips for getting into small areas. Q-tips get down in them little tight cracks and crevices and grooves and everything really well. And there we go. Put that. Alright, might as well go ahead and start reassembling. I'm going to put a little bit of lubricant down in here on these wear areas. I use this Super Lube. It's good for -45 below zero to 450 degrees Fahrenheit above zero. So it does not gel up or firm up when cold weather fishing. It's not going to melt out of the reel in the warm weather fishing unless you're in 450 degree weather. Then you might have to be concerned. Put some lubricant, just a real light coat's fine. You don't need a super large amount of grease. Having too much grease is just about as bad as not enough. It'll gum things up if you have way too much down in there. Take and clean this rotor up. Things in really nice shape. A little bit of dust and dirt down in here, but nothing much. I like to use a little bit of 3-in-1 oil on these, on the bail release trigger here. Get everything, make sure everything's working good. Put just a little bit there, a little bit on these. That works. This stuff gets down in and works pretty good. Usually if you have a stiff bail, it'll fray it up pretty quick. Here's the release trigger. It's still a little bit sticky, so let's take that screw right out of that. That bail is a little bit sticky, and I want to get I actually don't want to lose that spring though. It does not seem like it's going to be fun if I knock that spring off. Move that nut. We'll take the bail off of the bail arm. It's a nut and a little washer there. This one just has a solid. It does not have a roller. Excuse me. Pull that screw the rest of the way out. And there is the bail spring. Wipe these pieces and parts all down. Oops. There it goes out there. Make sure I get it the right direction. Just taking a look. Feels a little bit gritty, like there's a little sand in here, so try and rinse all that out, make sure it get all cleaned out. Penetrating oil is a really good cleaner. It has solvent in it. That's why it's not the best at lubricating. It does give it some lubricating properties. Oops, yeah, that'll work. Right on in there. There we go. Yeah, wipe this spring off. There's a groove there that this little piece of the spring goes into. Then you have that hole there that this unhooks into. Oops. Get it. You gotta preload that spring. So you bring it up here. Get the spring into the hole. There we are. We'll put the screw back in while all that hopefully stays together. I'm going to take and put just a touch of grease right in between there. We'll wipe off the excess. We don't want all that mess on there. There we are. Wipe that excess grease off. That's working as it should now. Release the bail lock. Ow! There. Okay, that's pretty much ready to go back in. While I have it right here in my hand, I'm going to lubricate this. Just a light coating on that shaft. I like to fill the teeth with the grease and then get just a little down inside there. Most of that, if you put too much, is just going to push through when you put the axle in it anyway. You don't need a lot. Okay, let's lubricate this case a little bit more. Make sure I got it good. We can get the spring back down into here. This little anti-reverse arm on it. Now we want to grab that spring, bring it back up here and hook it up here where it goes, right there. Okay. Now we have the main gear. I'm going to lubricate the shaft and the teeth of the gear. Don't need a lot. Put just a little bit down here in this anti-reverse lock here. And I like to put some on the face of this because of the eccentric piece that rides on here so that it doesn't wear. Don't need a lot again. Just filling up the teeth on the main gear now. Put the main gear down in here. There that is. Oh, for some reason, there we go. My anti-reverse lever was wanting to pop out of position. Okay, we got that lever, the main gear and shaft is now in place. So now we'll put the rotor and the clip back on. Let's add a little bit more grease down here in the bottom. Right there. Just a touch, don't need a lot. Just a little coating goes a long ways. That'll slide right in, meshes with that main gear. We'll grab the clip, put the clip back into place. There we go, there's that is. Now we have this. I've already lubricated that, so I'm not going to worry too much about lubricating this piece. Okay, now our axle shaft, I'm going to apply a light coat on that. That's plenty. That'll slide right back in through here. And everything's got to line up. It'll come right through that pinion gear right into the eccentric piece there. And on that shaft there is a hole. You'll see it also goes back here through that support. There's the hole the pin goes through that I took out. So we gotta watch. Oops! I'm gonna watch and get that lined up. And there's the hole, and I'm gonna slide it ahead, lined up with the hole in the eccentric. Grab our little pin. Oops, upside down. And there it is. The pin's back in place. Everything's working as it should. Anti-reverse. Okay, everything's looking good, so I'm going to go ahead and put the side cover on. We'll clean up the drag pieces and put the rotor or spool back together. Do not want to over tighten any of these screws. This is a plastic side cover. You over tighten it, you will break the side cover. There's no reason for a lot of pressure on it. Just snug so the screw don't loosen up and fall out on its own. Okay, I'm going to spin the handle on here, that way hold that shaft into place. Which way you want to go, there you go. And you hold the rotor and you can tighten that handle down. Okay, let's put our bail back on. Just sits in this end, slides right in there like that, and that goes into there. We have a lock washer, toothed lock washer. The nut, you want to be careful not to cross thread the nut as you go to put it on. And tighten that nut up. I should be using a socket set. I do have one, I just didn't grab it. Okay, set that off to the side. We have our drag components here. Not really a lot to do here. We can clean this up a little bit. Don't have to be perfect on this. Just get the debris, the dirt and everything off of it. And a little bit of rust that was on it. Okay, now this, being this spool is broke, that's how them drag pieces come up. But we're going to just take this locking clip here out. That's what actually holds the drag in. Want to be careful, that is a spring. It's got pressure on it, so you don't want it to go flying on you. You'll never find it. At least I won't. Them little tiny components get hard to see. Come on, work your way out. There we go. And that'll come out. Lay that down. Fiber washer goes in first. Put just a little bit of 3-in-1 onto that. This is a keyed washer. It matches the shaft. Put our snap ring back into here. Fits down in a groove inside the spool there. Want to make sure it locks in. You don't want that thing flying out at you. There we go. Make sure it's fully in the groove, and it is. Now we'll get the spool stuck back on. There. Put the drag nut on, that holds the spool in place. I take that off and put just a little bit of lube. It's going a little bit stiff, and that shaft did have a little rust on it. So I'm put just a little bit of oil on there to help lubricate it and also protect it. Excuse me. And now it's spinning on nice. And get that tightened down, snugged up, and make sure the drag still works. Oh, that's got a tight drag. Loosen up. Okay, this one's back in service. Make sure the bail release works properly. It's still just a little bit stiff. Give that a little more lubrication. See if we can't free that up a little bit better here. There we are. Just that little bit. Working as it should. Anti-reverse is working. It's got an instant anti-reverse, so it locks you out of reverse right away. Some of them you'll actually get a quarter turn out of it before it locks up. The spool is floating up and down as it should. The line will go on there nice. Okay, we'll finish wiping this thing down, get all cleaned up, and this one's ready to go back out on the water. We'll throw a little, some 8-pound line on this, maybe even 6. It's not a real heavy reel, so you're not going to be catching anything real big on it, or don't want to, but we'll throw some line on it, get her ready to go fishing. Everything is working as it should. Alright, well, I appreciate you watching the video. This was a little bit shorter one this time. This was a real simple reel. I like these simple ones. There's a lot less to go wrong with them. They last forever. This is quite a low-end reel by the looks of it. But it's quite old. I don't know exactly what year this was made, but you can tell by looking at it. It's fairly old. It's probably 40, 50 years old. And it still works great. So there's something to be said about the older stuff here. So appreciate you guys watching the video. If you made it this far, go ahead and